everybody and welcome to another episode of JayEmm Friends. And today we are continuing our quest to find Ant another car. In the last episode, we took out a Bonefide supercar, the mighty Ferrari 488 GTB. And in this episode, we're taking out what many call the supercar slayer. This is the Lotus Exige. Right, now this is actually quite a big deal for you because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first experience of a Lotus full stop.
Yep, never driven one. I've only been a passenger once with a friend of yours, actually, in an Evora.
Great cars too, and we will be trying to get that Evora on the channel at some point in the future because those who know my channel will know that it all started with an Evora, and that is the car that taught me just what driving engagement actually means. And I know it's something that you really prize as well,
Yep.
And I think this has got a lot of what you like. I was kind of surprised you're not actually into the satin black. I kind of had you down for that.
No, it's just not me. Well, you know me, I love my white cars.
Yeah.
I'm much more about the sort of, I don't know, glossy finish. I might have like a satin colour if it was like satin white.
I mean, they are available in white, not satin.
No.
What do you think of the looks?
Looks-wise, if we take the colour and the specifics of this car out of the way and just focus on the shapes, the lines, I love it. I love it. The only thing that worries me about this car is getting into it, because I've had some experience getting into a Caterham, but that had a removable steering wheel and this doesn't. And I know the sills on this are quite wide, and whilst there's a bit more room on the inside than a Caterham, ingress and egress.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I'll be honest with you, as a former Elise owner, there is no really pretty way to do it. The best you can ever hope for is to be quick. Now, for those not too familiar with this, there are many different variants of the Exige, which started life as basically a hotted up version of the Elise, but then for this Series 3 car, it changed dramatically. Did you know this car actually was just a happy accident?
No.
It was a test bed that Lotus built because when they were developing the Evora, they needed a way of testing out the Toyota 3.5 litre V6 that they were using. So they took the front of an Elise and grafted the rear subframe of an Evora to the back of it. And all the test drivers came back going, you gotta try this, it's brilliant. Now when it launched, this then had a supercharger strapped to it, like the Evora S. So in standard guise, these made about 350 horsepower. This one's been modified, it's making 460. Car only weighs 1,100 kilos. It's quick. There's loads of different variants of the Exige, but you know, the one thing with this car is I think we shouldn't get wrapped up with the numbers, because a Lotus has never really been about the numbers. A Lotus has always been about the way it makes you feel. And the thing with the Lotus is that really it is all about the performance through lightweight. So for that very reason, I think it is only fair that you conduct this test drive solo, and then we'll meet back after you're done. So,
Well, I guess it's just about time I just jump in and give it a... James?
yes, there is one other thing I forgot to mention to you about this car, which has been loaned to us by the lovely Vlad. He bought it when he was living in Switzerland.
Ah, so the thing that's missing on this side is over on the other side.
Yes.
Great.
Enjoy.
Right, this is the embarrassing part, actually trying to get into it. No removable steering. I think I would want a removable steering wheel on one of these. Oh.
You're doing good. I'm rooting for you.
Oh. Made it. Actually, it wasn't that bad. Once you get your legs over and you get your bum down here, it's not so bad. I still would have preferred a removable steering wheel. So now this does have the harnesses, but I'm not going to use those on a public road if I don't need to. So I think this is it. Time to hit the road. It's insane! What the hell? It doesn't sound like a great deal of power, 460, but in a car like this, it feels like a lot. And I don't know if that's because of the light weight of the car, or if it's just because I'm so low down and there's just so much that you feel, so much that you hear through this car. Oh, it does run out of revs, as James warned. Ah, woo. What a crazy car. The thing is, I've driven faster cars. I've driven the Ferrari 296 GTB, 830 horsepower. It's a crazy amount of power. And the delivery of that power in that car is incredible, but somehow this just feels more mental, more like I could screw this up. Okay, let's just calm down, take it easy, and talk a little bit about some of the basics of the driving experience in this car. I'm not a big fan of left-hand drive cars on UK roads. I mean, it's okay, but I don't like it just because, particularly on these narrow country lanes, you feel like the cars on the other side of the road, which aren't always entirely on their side of the road, do kind of get very, very close or feel very close on that side of the car. But the great thing is you just hug the inside, you can see exactly where that is. You've got these wheel arches that bulge, you know exactly where both corners of the car are, and you've just got this sense of where the rear of the car is, so you know what spacing you've got. And it's actually one of the easiest left-hand drive cars that I've managed to drive on a UK road. The last one that I drove on this channel was a 355 Challenge car, and again, same principle, you kind of get used to it, you just hug that inside line of the road and you're good to go. Now for most people, if you're living in the UK or any other right-hand drive market, you'll probably want the right-hand drive version if what you're doing with this car is driving on the road. However, if your intention is to spend most of your time actually tracking this car, I would say a left-hand option is probably the one to go for. Now, most UK tracks go clockwise. In fact, most tracks around the world are clockwise tracks, and the consequence of that is that you have more right-hand corners, and a left-hand drive car gives you a little bit more visibility through that corner. You can place the car a little better, you can see where your exit point is, where you're trying to place the car on the other side of the apex much more easily. And that's why many race cars, including British touring cars, are often left-hand drive. But for me, I'm more interested in the overall experience of this car, and I can tell you, even when you're doing low speeds like this, it feels like an event. It feels like a race car for the road. Like, actually, more so than even the Ferrari 355 Challenge that I drove before. The steering is, of course, hard work because it's unassisted, but there's just something special about unassisted steering. You just get so much more feel through it, and you just know exactly what's going on. And the suspension on this actually, I think, is about spot on for what we're using it for today. I imagine that it could probably go a little stiffer on a racetrack, and I'm not sure what suspension we've got on this, but I think it might be adjustable, so the damping rates might be adjustable, which might be a good idea on a racetrack. But for where it is now, I think it feels just right. Now, I know what James is going to say about this car. James is going to love it. So if you haven't watched his review, which I'm sure is available on his channel by now, do make sure you watch it. But I think he's going to love this car. Now, interestingly, most of the time when we do have a disagreement about a car, it's usually because the car is too raw. But the difference is this car is meant to be raw. It's meant to be driven. Oh my goodness, it's incredible! Now, something James always says about these cars is that it talks to you, and he is not joking. I can feel everything on the road. It's so visceral. Honestly, it doesn't even need the amount of power it has, because I'm not even using all of it, and I'm still having a huge amount of fun in this car. Woo. But let's talk a little bit more about some of its other characteristics. Now, in terms of how it feels in the corners, it feels very, very planted. With a car this low, its low center of gravity is obviously working in your favor. It's helping you out in every single turn, but at the same time, the car also feels really, really balanced. It does feel like when you go around the corner and you do start to feel a little bit of slip, let's just say, it just feels like it's doing that like right around the middle of the car, almost the middle of you for that matter. The only thing that I would say that I've experienced so far that I would criticise about this car, actually, two things I would criticise about this car. One of them is I just still can't quite get to grips with this gear lever, because when it's in neutral, it's kind of way over to the right, which you kind of need it to be to stay out of the way of your leg. And when you get it into second, it is really quite close. Put it into third, it's way over there, and I feel like it seems like it's in fifth, even though I can feel that it's actually in third. So I haven't quite got to grips with this, and I do feel that the throw might be just a little bit on the long side, but in terms of the origins of the gearbox, let's face it, this basically came from a Toyota. But look, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on the gearbox. It's still got a nice click to it. It just feels a little longer than I personally would want it. Now onto my second complaint about this car, the brakes. Now I think this is something very particular to this specific car in terms of how the brakes have been set up, what brake fluid is being used, but it's very grabby, very, very grabby. I mean, you literally just brush the brake pedal and it's slowing you down by an amount that you would feel like you should be pushing a lot harder to achieve. And the side effect of that is that if you do want to brake really hard, you still can't press the brake down enough to be able to heel and toe. The throttle pedal is just a little bit too far away from where the brake stops under maximum pressure for you to actually get your heel across comfortably. I'm sure the owner of this car has probably got the knack of it now, but personally, I just couldn't get my foot to rotate enough without running the risk of it slipping off of the brake pedal. I want to have a bit more travel on the pedal, or if you want to have this kind of very, race car feel on the pedal, then I would say that somehow we need to bring the throttle a bit closer or get the brake pedal a bit further back. Either way, that would just make it a little easier for heeling and towing. And of course the other challenge is getting in and out of the car, which frankly is not that easy. But you manage it, and once you're in, it just feels like absolute sheer drama, absolute theatre, even when you're not even pushing it. Like right now, I am just cruising through the bends. It feels like the car has got so much to give you. It's epic. Oh, it gets through the revs so quickly. Oh my God. See these people. Oh, just about staying on their side of the road. Oh. Oh. Honestly, now I genuinely know why James thought that I would love this car. Why haven't I had a Lotus in my life before? Why? This is making the decision as to what car I buy next really difficult, because so far I think I want all of them, but this one, the Exige, is now very, very, very high on my list. Well, let's get back and see James, and I'm going to tell him what I think, and let's see what he thinks of what I think. What a pain in the butt to get in and out of. Oh my God. What a machine. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the 360 probably would have been enough, but 460 in this, I mean, it goes through the gear. It's like by the time you realise you're approaching the rev limiter, it's already there. It's like I've changed gear, I'm expecting some revs to build, but it's already happened.
Now, there's a couple of things I didn't tell you about this car before you took it out. One of which you probably noticed a couple of area lights on the dash.
Yep.
And what that means is we couldn't give you sport mode. Sport mode would have given you another 400 RPM.
Even still, it still would have it wouldn't have made much of a difference.
I think this car also has a different final drive,
Yeah.
which will make a difference. But regardless, to be honest, what you're saying does apply to all of these things. Once they start ripping through the gears, it's, this thing, a lot of people talk about race cars for the road, and usually it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's complete twaddle. Like,
No,
your
this is-
R8, not race car for the road. Lovely car for the road, not race car. This, you're like, not quite, but it's damn close. And I love this wraparound view you get. It's proper Group C racer. I mean, I hadn't driven one of these for, I think 2 or 3 years at least before I got back in this. And once you get out on the road and you get used to, okay, some of the weird controls and stuff, and this one's not perfect, it is pretty good, isn't it?
I don't even know how to put most of my thoughts into words, and you'll see that is probably the case from the in-car video. But the steering is incredible. I mean, there's something great about just unassisted steering. It's uncompromised.
Yeah.
You feel everything. It's a little bit of hard work if you have to do a 3-point turn, but you know, everything about this was just a huge buzz. Now, for me personally, this wouldn't be my personal spec. I think there's a lot of people that would like it, because it is different from most Lotuses. You don't usually see this kind of, you know, satin black with the JPS livery inspired gold details. It's the left-hand drive for me. I probably wouldn't go for it, and the main reason I wouldn't go for it is because I'd be probably driving it on the road for fun, rather than taking it onto track. And I mentioned this in the car when I was driving it. If my primary use for this was on the track, I'd probably want the left-hand drive because it just gives you better visibility through right-handers. I can't fault it. It's a little bit hard to get in and out of, but that kind of adds to the theatre.
There is actually also something you can do to fix that, and actually, in my opinion, massively improve this car, which is this panel comes out.
It's not meant to though, is it?
Well, there's
Sorta.
a long-standing debate as to whether it's supposed to come out or not. But the fact is that from factory you could order a soft top conversion. So you could remove this and install a little fabric rollover thing which can wrap up and go in the back. And if I were going to have an Exige or an Elise again, the soft top's the way to go. If you're going to go on your track day, you put the hard top on.
Yep.
It just makes sense. But for road usage, also, it just makes it so much easier to get in and out of, because you open the door, you roll the roof back, and you just stand in, get down, done.
Much easier.
And on a day like today, we're pretty lucky. You've got the weather for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm jealous, really. There is nothing quite like it. I mean, it is quick, and you look at the numbers sometimes, and actually you're not really going maybe as quick as you sort of think, but it's by no means a slow car.
No.
And I hope you sort of felt what I meant about that Lotus thing. Like, it doesn't matter how quick or not the car is, it's that conversation you have with it.
Yep.
And compared to so much modern machinery,
It is absolutely epic, and I think makes complete sense alongside both the 370Z and the GT, because it does something completely different to both those cars. But we've still got a few more cars to test out, so if you want to see which one I end up choosing and which cars are coming up for me to potentially buy, then make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because that tells YouTube you want to keep following this series. And of course, let us know in the comments below what cars you think I should be driving that I haven't driven already.
see you for the next one.
Bye-bye.